So the doors are closing, and that means we get to start. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Priestley. Some of you may know me as Evil Chris. I'm the part of the community team at BioWare. Thank you all for hosting PAX Australia. A big thank you to Penny Arcade for finally giving an excuse for us to come down and talk with you, our Australian fans. Big thanks to our enforcers. They're always awesome. They're a huge part of PAX. Respect your enforcers while you're visiting. They're so cool for us. But thank you all for coming out, for lining up. It blows our minds when, we're like, oh, we better go start heading towards the theater. Oh my God, look at this line. Thank you all so much for waiting for us. We're really flattered for your attention. It's great that you're here with us today. I'm going to turn the panel over to the people that are with us. Most of what we're going to be doing here today is a Q&A. We want to talk with you, answer your questions. We don't get down to Australia as much as we'd like to, so we want to give you as much chance to ask questions as possible. But just before I turn it over, one thing I'd really like for everybody to do, I'm going to just bring up Vine here on my phone. If everybody here, give me I'll count to 3, and we'll do a little wave back for the folks at BioWare, because they're going to be floored that there's this many people here in Australia that wanted to come out and see us. So on the count of 3, just give me a wave and say, hello from Australia, BioWare. 1, 2, 3. Hello from Australia, BioWare. That's awesome. Thank you. And that's enough out of me for right now. I'm going to turn it over to the people that are here on the panel with. Panelist number 1, sign in, please.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Yes. Hooray! I'm Patrick Weeks. I'm a writer at BioWare. I spent most of my time on the Mass Effect trilogy. So if you ever rode in an elevator and heard awkward elevator conversations, you're welcome. On Mass 2, they let me do a few plots, and I got to help out with making people cry about Geth and Quarians in Mass Effect 3. Since then, I've moved on to the Dragon Age team, and I'm really, really jazzed to be working on Inquisition. I believe I'm done.
Okay. Hi, I'm Karen Weeks. Yes, I'm married to him, and I also work at BioWare. I'm the lead editor for our Edmonton and Montreal studios. I've worked on Dragon Age Origins. I know, I'm getting old. I've been there a while. Dragon Age Origins, Mass Effect 2, Dragon Age 2, Mass Effect 3, and now I'm also working on Dragon Age Inquisition.
And Sonic.
And Sonic. I was also on Sonic. I always forget about that, but yeah. It's a little game. So yeah, our editing team pretty much fixes what the writing team does. That's not, well, it's a little bit true, but so we have there are teams of between 5 and 8 writers on each of our major projects, and so we try to ensure consistency among the voices. When you've got 5 different people writing Commander Shepard, our goal is to not have it sound like 5 different people are writing Commander Shepard, so we watch out for tone things and some spelling things and IP things. I also am the liaison between the writing team and our VO department, so when we're working with the actors, explaining all the really weird stuff we make up, how do you pronounce Ardat Yakshi, and things like that. I help record pronunciation guides and have occasionally stomped back into the writing room saying, no, humans can't say this, you have to change this name, that's not okay. And then we work with all the non-VO text, all the weapons descriptions and codex entries and all the other words.
And even non-game stuff, because when we write things like BioWare blogs and that sort of thing, just about things that go on around the office, or recently the 10th anniversary of Knights of the Old Republic, that sort of thing. We pass them on to the editing team to make sure that we're using our words good.
We try to help the words be more better. So yeah, thank you all so much for being here. We are a tiny part of a really big team, and thank you for waving to everybody, because it's really an honor to get to represent all the people that we work with, and really an honor to come talk with you. So thank you so much.
Service you provide. So, hi guys, my name is Cameron Lee. I'm a producer at BioWare, so at the moment very much focused on Dragon Age Inquisition. And as you can tell from my accent, I am Australian, so I'm originally from Melbourne. I haven't been at BioWare as long as these guys. I think it's about a year today, so it's great to come down here, get a free holiday, meet my friends, meet my family, you know what I mean? So every year, this is the plan, you know. But you know, for my job as a producer, it's really to represent you guys and understand what you guys want and how we, as a team, can create something that you guys absolutely love. So that's pretty much what I do, which is awesome. Because I get to talk to you guys, I get to hear what you want, and then someone translate it to you guys, you know, and hopefully it gets done. So. So I think what we'll do, I've got a little something to show you guys and take you guys through a bit of Dragon Age Inquisition stuff. There's not a lot we can really talk about, but I can show you a few things today. And I'm going to start off with
Mr. Sherlock hired me from my manager. Said it wouldn't be a problem if I took his father's place tonight because
the E3 trailer that we did for Dragon Age Inquisition. So hopefully some of you guys have seen it. If you haven't, then
I was discussing an artificial sweetener with a suspect earlier on. Yeah, looks and feels.
I've seen more of this war than you can imagine. None shall be untouched by the fires above. Faith lies in ashes. Our fragile alliances crumble to dust as this world is torn asunder. Darkness closes in. Will you stand against it? Or lead this world to its bitter end?
Like regular sugar, but it's not.
So that took us
Minute
probably about
differences,
30
carcinogenic.
people for
In that case, but
around
it got me thinking
5 or
about
6
some unusual
weeks, just
sand
absolutely
I
crunching to
noticed.
get that thing done. It was a lot of fun to do it, and I was lucky enough to go down to E3 with Aaron, our GM, to be in the audience when this thing was shown for the first time. And it was absolutely insane. There was this massive auditorium
crash
full of
site.
people.
It was new.
And, you know,
Hadn't been weathered by
it's
the elements yet. At first, I thought
so
well, the city
humbling
must
and,
have trucked it in
and
to
he was
offset
so proud
erosion
of
on the
something like
beach.
this out
But
there that people,
according to the
you know,
Parks
really get
Department,
behind
they haven't
and
done that at
like
Far
cheering
Rockaway
and
in over a
very,
year.
very
So
exciting.
how
Can I
does
just
sand
toss in,
make it?
for people who aren't aware, that's all in engine.
Yes.
Sand.
So that's
So
that's
Plugged into the
not
fuel tank.
that's not
That's
a
not CG,
pre-rendered
yeah.
No.
That's all
third
what it
party,
really
that's-
looks like.
Yes. So that's
Ideally.
really Varric's chest hair.
It is.
So anyway, when we did this, we also released this image here, you know, Dragon Age Inquisition. And, oh, I'm going to panel, blah, blah, blah. You've already introduced ourselves, whatever. We don't matter. So I'm going to go back to this image here, right? Because I've had a lot of people ask me questions about this on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. They go, Cam, is that the player character? What's the deal with the rings? You know, what's the helmet? Whatever. Is it a quest giver? But really, it's none of those things. It's actually a representation of a concept and a principle that we try and take towards Dragon Age Inquisition, which is, this is your game, right? This is an invitation for you to pick up the helmet and for you to join us in the game that we're making for you guys, right? So it's your world, it's your story, it's your characters, you know, it's your decisions. And that's what we're trying to do with Dragon Age Inquisition. So I just wanted to highlight that because not many people understand it, you know, and that's really, from our perspective, what we're trying to do. So what can we talk about? So the PR people back home, they did send me a joke version of this, you know, after they'd taken edits out of it. And it was basically this slide, and I'd hit another button, and it'd be like, nothing. But it's not quite that bad. So I can talk a little bit about the E3 trailer and why we included the shots that we did in that. And then we can get into a little bit of Q&A after that. So, Epic World, World in Chaos, absolutely, right? So we heard you guys after DA2. We wanted to go back to a much bigger, broader, epic kind of a story, something like Origins, where you need a massive world to show this story. And in this particular iteration of the Dragon Age franchise, the world is absolute chaos, right? And really, what says chaos more than this humongous dragon with a huge rift in the sky and demons pouring out, right? So this is, part of the reason why we included these sorts of shots in the trailer. It really is a big story. It's very epic. There's big bad guys, big dragons, and nations at war, right? So we included this shot because it's about humans fighting humans and the chaos that goes with that, and the backdrop of all that the writers create. So we included that. So decisions that matter, yes, of course, absolutely. Again, we heard you. And this shot here, we wanted to include this scene because this is a scene in the game which is a direct consequence of a decision that you may or may not make through the game, right? This is a village which has been absolutely destroyed. Everyone's dead because you did or didn't do a certain thing, right? This is one example of many, many things that's going to be in the game. It's very important to us that you feel like the decisions and the actions that you take have real consequence and impact the world in a really meaningful way. Returning characters, Cassandra, yes, absolutely, she will be there. We can't say whether they're going to be followers, whether they're going to be main characters or anything like that. Okay, someone's happy. Varric, of course, because we needed the chest hair, right? And Morrigan. We knew everyone wanted Morrigan. So David Gator, I think, writes Morrigan, right? Yeah. So he'll be very happy that everyone loves Morrigan. We all love her. We wanted to bring her back, and thankfully we got a chance to do so. So yay for me. And that's who I romanced, so rock on. You lead the Inquisition in Dragon Age Inquisition. So there is an organization which you take part in and you form and you get to lead throughout the course of the game. And I can't go too much into it, but I can say it's definitely not part of the Chantry. There was some concern on the forums, which we do read a lot of, that you would have to be some sort of like a religious sort of organization. No, it's not the case. The Inquisition, going back to the premise of how we're making the game, this is your game, right? So it's your Inquisition. So it gets to be whatever you want it to be. And of course, here's a shot from the trailer, of someone, the Inquisition sort of been, making some decisions and plotting, etc. And I will point out, and this thing snuck in, right? We didn't actually know until quite late, but if you notice on the left-hand side, there's this kind of book with a guy in a vest, right? And it looks kind of creepy, and it's because it is, right? And I don't know a lot about it, but I think Patrick and Karen would know more about this.
So the book in question might possibly be a book alluded to in Dragon Age 2, the work of one Varric Tethris, Hardin Hightown, which...
And yes, it is what you think it's about with that title.
And if it's visible in this trailer, then canonically, Cassandra is a fan. Which gives the interrogation frame story from DA to an entirely different context. Got a bit of a misery thing, I think.
Yeah. So this thing snuck through and wicked. Okay, I love that kind of stuff.
Writers love when this happens.
Yes. So combat. We know everyone wants to know about combat. What I can say is that we know that there is a large group of people that loved the tactical, thoughtful, slower combat from Dragon Age Origins. We know there is a number of people that liked Dragon Age 2's combat for its fluidity. Maybe not its respawning waves of enemies, but there was something to be said for that type of combat as well. So it is our job to satisfy both crowds and to create something which merges the best of the two into an experience which everyone can enjoy without diluting the parts that make it great. So that's all I can really say, but there are definitely going to be new creatures. So again, going back to E3 trailer, we included this guy who's really scary looking. So he's a new demon that's going to be in the game. And this guy who's big, he's actually really deceptively big. He's got this, you can't see it here, but he's got this big kind of like club on his other hand. He like slams that down and like stuff shatters everywhere. So it's pretty cool. I think you'll see a lot of him. He's a lot of fun to fight. This guy, the Nightmare, is, sorry for the pun, but he's an absolute nightmare to fight. Like, he sinks into the ground, he comes up behind you and he does some stuff and he shoots this black stuff. It's pretty cool. So you get a couple of those and it's kind of chaotic. So it's very cool. Okay, exploration. BioWare has been known for exploration in the past, and we really want to come back to that in a big way with this game. So there's lots of exploration, there's lots of different areas, and you can sort of explore and find things. It might be small dungeons, it might be big dungeons, it might be, I don't know, some piece of lore sitting around that you just happen to find, but anything that's kind of interesting and exciting, which you guys can sink your teeth into. And for that purpose, here's a picture of one of those areas that you're going to get to explore. And this is a deceptively normal looking place. It's actually a normal place where really weird things go on. You can't tell from this shot, but I think it'll be a lot of fun when we get through it. We've been working on this area quite a lot over the last 6 months. Diverse environments. So yes, absolutely.
Not the same cave again and again.
This is a different
I wasn't going to say it, but okay. Yes, that's right. So I'm sure you guys have seen this concept art in the past. It's been floated around on the net, etc. So absolutely, we're going to have diverse environments. So these kind of like overgrown sort of areas, with big sort of trees. We've got snow-capped mountains, big castles, things like that. Plains that kind of remind me of Edmonton, but without the big rocks. So yeah, we've got all of that stuff and many more. It's quite exciting to see the breadth of the world that we get to explore. And so I'm really looking forward to getting the game out there and showing you guys what the team's been able to create. So, do you want more? Do I say any more? Okay. So we really didn't want to come down here and fly the 19 hours of flying and, for me, 9 hours of stopovers and not show you guys anything. We can't do what we do without you guys supporting us. So thank you, right? And to say thank you, I went around to the team before I left and I said, can I have some concept art or something, to take down to the guys in Australia? They gave me a couple of pieces. No one's seen this stuff before, so you guys are the first that get to see this. But again, it speaks to the diverse environments that we have. So we have this sort of an environment which is, it's kind of like desert and sort of oases, and there's sort of water and hidden kind of locations, which is pretty cool. So we're working on this. This is in the game at the moment. It's pretty badass, actually. Swamps and like hidden ruins and just really interesting places to explore and to find. We're going to have all these things in there. So again, we've got swamps, plains, mountains, what else? Deserts, and snow, heaps. So it's going to be really interesting, and we're really looking forward to bringing that out. And then there was, of course, this shot. I'm not exactly sure what this shot says, other than Canaries maybe related
Things
to
with
dragons
horns.
with horns. But it's a great shot, and I think it says a little bit about the game. And that's really all I've got to say. So I think maybe we can get into some questions at this point.
Yeah. One other thing.
Oh, sorry, one other thing. Not long to wait.
Yep.
We know you want more, and we know you want to find out more. It is coming. So be a little bit patient, and you'll find out all you want to know.
Stay tuned,
Yes.
as they say.
And we are going to open up the floor for questions. One thing I'm going to kind of cut off before it even begins. We have announced that there is another Mass Effect title in the works. This is being developed. Yeah, thank you. We have announced it's in the works. It's being developed mostly at our Montreal studio. We have a studio in Montreal, Canada, as well as Edmonton. Some support from the Edmonton team, Casey Hudson, the project director, that sort of thing. It is too early to talk about that at all. We can't hint, we can't show concept art, we can't do anything like that. Its time will come. Those of you that follow, people from that studio on Twitter and so forth know they've recently completed the design Bible, so they're getting the work done. It is in development, but really, if you ask, so what about Mass Effect the next? We're not going to be able to answer. So we are open up to pretty much any question. If you want to talk a little bit about Dragon Age, the past, present, that sort of thing, any past games, what it's like working in, 10 feet of snow with minus 54-degree winters and all that sort of thing. We're open to questions, but we want to hear from you. So if you have questions, our enforcers have microphones.
Hello. Hello.
Psych.
Sorry.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, there you go.
Excellent. Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming down here, by the way,
Thank you for
because
having us.
we don't get this kind of thing very often. So, kudos for making the trip. What I wanted to ask, obviously, when Dragon Age 3 comes out, Inquisition, that's going to be, available on next-gen platforms as well. Obviously, PC and things like that. For people who have played the earlier Dragon Ages on earlier systems, how are you going to take that into account in terms of transferring data, save files, decisions that have been made? How's that going to work? Do you know how that's going to work yet?
Yeah. We know. We're not going to talk about it yet. See, this is why PR just said, say nothing. No, we know what we want to do. It will absolutely come across. Your decisions will carry and it will matter. But yeah, we can't go into details about how it's going to work. Sorry.
But we are thinking about it.
And the goal is, I think, unless Cameron lunges over and starts choking me as I say this, then we can say that the goal is that you can have an equally rich experience no matter which platform you're playing on.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
No lunging.
No lunging.
I don't start you.
Yeah, at the back.
We're on.
It's a pleasure to have you down here. It's actually good to see an American company come down to Australia and sort of give us the time of day. We very rarely get that. Basically, I just wanted to say we've seen the rise and fall of several trilogies this generation. We've seen Mass Effect, we've seen Dragon Age, now we've Dragon Age 3 being announced. And we've also seen The Witcher as well. Basically, I want to say with those trilogies, mistakes have been made for both companies, and obviously there's been benefits from both companies in their production of those games. Do you feel you've evolved from the mistakes of certain titles in your portfolio? And do you feel that the sort of the rise of The Witcher, especially Witcher 3, do you feel that Inquisition's going to be able to compete or surpass it at any particular level? Not to be offensive, I apologise for that, but after Dragon Age 2 I felt very disappointed, to say the least.
So
that was a loaded
absolutely.
question, I apologise.
Absolutely. I mean, the team's brilliant, and we have the time, and we pushed the date out by a year than originally planned. So absolutely, it's they're different games, slightly. There's different focuses in different areas. I think the AI will be incredible. So I
Well, I think compete is the wrong word.
Yeah.
I think there's a story that people want to tell where the video game companies hate each other and our game is going to crush theirs, and that's really not true. Like, I came to BioWare because I love games, and I hope that the next Witcher game is fantastic, and I hope that ours is fantastic, and I hope that people buy both and play both.
The more people
We
that are
certainly
playing
will buy
really
both.
good video games,
let's-
role-playing games, is great for all of us.
I mean, every time another great game comes out and raises the bar, that's not threatening. It's only threatening if we don't think we can ever do anything better.
Yeah.
So we look at something and go, that's a fantastic game. How am I going to incorporate that awesome thing and do it in a BioWare fashion? So no, I think that our biggest competition, the only thing we absolutely want to crush is what we've done in our past games. That's one of the reasons I'm so proud to be on the Dragon Age team. It's one of the reasons I was proud to be on the Mass Effect team. That every new project, we said, okay, let's look at the best things we did on our previous game, and let's see how we beat that. Let's see how we make that look antiquated and quaint as we go into our next game.
With that being said, do you feel we would just disregard Dragon Age 2 and focus more on the origins in terms of gameplay, story?
No, I think both games had great points to them. Both games had things that people wanted improvement on, and both games had areas where I think they excelled. I love the combat in DA2. Now, we've heard concerns about level art reuse, occasional enemies dropping from the sky, but personally, I loved how the combat was faster and more fluid. I loved how it made my character move around the area more effectively, and I wouldn't want to lose that. What I would want to do is make sure that Dragon Age 2 still, Dragon Age 3 allows the more tactical options that Origins had.
I've been with BioWare for over 13 years, and we always try to learn from what we've done before and try to make it better. This doesn't mean that everything we try is going to be a big success. But what is important for us, and it's really key for us, we listen to our fans, we take the feedback that we get, and we go, okay, they like this. Oh, good, good. We hope they'd like this. They didn't like that so much. Oh, really? Wow, we were hoping they'd like that more. Okay, we can adapt that. We can make it better the next time. And that's a key thing for BioWare. Sure.
Hello. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you, shadowy figure.
You're probably not going to be able to answer this, but having been keeping up with the novels as well as the games, understanding that there'll be a lot of focus on the mage and Templar relationships and the Canary and everything about that, do you think we might see a return to a more Darkspawn-oriented story, or like stronger focus on that? I just felt I kind of miss it a little bit, but not to say that I don't like the other story.
Yeah.
You need some what? Sorry.
He was hoping for a more Darkspawn.
Yeah,
Darkspawn.
the story details we can't really get into at this point, unfortunately. I feel like PR. I just need to put a PR hat on.
I think it's important, though, one thing, we often get this kind of confusion between Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Mass Effect was a trilogy of title based on Commander Shepard. It was Commander Shepard's adventure in the world of Mass Effect. Dragon Age is a story of the world. It's not the story of one person in the world, like with Mass Effect was Commander Shepard and who he or she interacted with. Dragon Age is the story of the world. So in Dragon Age Origins, it was the story of the Warden fighting the Darkspawn. And in Dragon Age 2, it was the story of Hawk. In Dragon Age 3, it's going to be the story of the Inquisition and the choices that you make and all the stuff we can't talk about yet. But there will absolutely be some ties to previous games, maybe some of the books, the lore, that sort of thing that you'll recognize if you've played the previous games. But they're not going to be reliant upon the previous games. It's going to be cornerstones that you touch that you're like, okay, I get that because I've played DAO, or I've played DA2, I've read one of David's novels, one of Patrick Weeks's upcoming novels, that sort of thing. But it doesn't directly tie or respond to what is previous. So that's about as obscure and vague as I can be on that.
That's good. I like that.
That's nicely done.
Just over here.
Hi, first let me say that I personally fell in love with Varric, which was a big surprise to me, can I say. And I'll be playing Age of War in the next game, just for Varric. My question is, in Dragon Age 2, you introduced a voice for Hawk. Will our character in Dragon Age 3 have a voice again?
I think Mike actually has answered this, so we
we
can
say it.
actually
Yeah.
answer this one. I don't see us going back to a silent protagonist. Now, what we're really happy with that. What we do want to do is, I think, learn from some of the experiences with DA2's Hawk. It was the first time trying it. People really liked the responsiveness. Some people also ran into situations where they felt they didn't understand that something Hawk was saying was because of something Hawk had said earlier in the conversation, a dialogue option that was chosen. So I think we're going to be a little bit more aware of that in the conversations with where the player makes a choice. And also, we heard some concerns on Mass Effect 3 about the amount of auto dialogue, and looking at both of those, I think it's something we're going to manage carefully. We always want it to be tuned to a point where it flows naturally. But I think we will definitely have the auto dialogue.
Yeah, and
Sorry,
paraphrasing,
and the
how you
player view.
paraphrase as well
Yeah.
with the text is really important. Some people were concerned that what they picked from a text, the paraphrase text, didn't necessarily reflect what Hawk or
Someone
Shepard said,
could
right?
write a
And we can
doctoral
improve that.
dissertation on paraphrased text. It sounds like it would be the easiest thing ever, and Karen routinely has to fix all of mine. It's like, that's a really good line, Patrick, and the paraphrase in no way relates to what you just said.
Yeah.
Just quickly on that subject then, will there be the opportunity to choose a voice?
To what,
Will-
sorry?
Will we have the opportunity to choose from a selection of voices?
That we probably
Yeah,
can't
we
get
can't
into
answer.
at this point.
Okay, all right. Well, I certainly hope there will be that opportunity because it did sort of grate to sound like a British princess, to be honest, as opposed to a hardcore fighting character. Thank you.
Hi, hello.
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 I'm building on the previous question. Would the hero of Inquisition now have a first name? Like, for example, in Mass Effect and in Dragon Age 2, your mom or your paramour will call you by your last name, and that would be kind of weird. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't say anything.
That's one of those
I don't
we
know what to
can't
say.
answer
That was-
yet
yeah,
questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. There's,
Hi. I was wondering, in the wake of Kickstarter and the projects particularly started by, I believe, Obsidian Entertainment and In Exile with Wasteland 2 and Project Eternity and Torment Tides of Numenera, what you guys actually thought of crowdfunded projects rather, and the benefits and risks, and as well as that, how you actually feel about these titles that are, in some cases, making a resurgence of almost nearly about 18 years since Wasteland 1 for Wasteland 2.
They're awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's
I
great.
I'm hanging out for Shadowrun.
I'm also hanging out for Shadowrun.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed I missed that Kickstarter.
no, I was just checking in on a couple of things that we've backed on Kickstarter. Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like it creates a fascinatingly open level playing field. Anyone that's got an idea, anyone that's got the passion and enthusiasm, it does take often a great deal of money to get a game out these days. And it's so exciting to get to see such a variety of new ideas that wouldn't ever be able to see the light of day without Kickstarter. So I think it's fabulous myself.
And it lets people experiment a little bit as well, which is
Yeah.
great. So, and we look at it and you can learn from it, right?
Absolutely.
There's some really good stuff. And I know that Mark Darrow, the EP, and Mike Laidlaw and Dave Gator is a big backer as well. So, yeah, love it.
What would be your advice to any current game development students that dream of working at a BioWare studio one day?
Apply.
Yeah.
It's what our crankiest, oldest writer, Luke, regularly tells people. Well, he is.
I know he is. I went to college with Luke.
Yeah.
I've known him
Yeah.
25 years. He's
Yeah.
really cranky.
But if it really depends on what, like, I don't know if you're looking at design, if you're looking at programming, if you're looking at art, but
3D art, yeah.
art.
Okay.
So it's in any of those disciplines, it is all about developing a portfolio, developing a body of work that shows both that you have the level of skill and craftsmanship necessary to make something that would be in a shipped game, and also the more challenging part sometimes is showing that you have the ability to hit deadlines. When writers want to apply, one of the things I tell them is get a job doing writing. It doesn't matter if it's game writing. Get a job doing copywriting, marketing writing. Get a job at a newspaper that shows that you can hit a 5 p.m. deadline, because there's a difference between, hey, I worked on this for 2 weeks and I made this awesome story and everyone who reads it cries and it's great, but you also have to be able to make something that's done by 5. So showing that you can do it at a professional level and hit deadlines is just as important.
Yeah, and if I could jump in on that, the other thing I would really encourage you to do is to get critiques. a lot of what we do is sit in meetings and have our ideas not always beaten down, but twisted and changed. And okay, that part of what you did was good. That part of what you did was good. But we're working with teams of people, right? So it's not just you walking in with your fabulous idea, which was great, and then Patrick points out the huge flaw in my fabulous idea, and I go, oh, okay, great. And it is disappointing, and learning how to deal with that flash of, well, crap, I just spent a whole lot of time working on that. But being able to work with your colleagues and accept those other ideas and have someone give you feedback and fix it, because we're very collaborative, but there comes a point when push comes to shove and what Mike says goes, and so we need to all make that happen. So the ability to balance that creative passion that you have to do it with being able to work with other people is really important, and that'll make your job in the industry that much more satisfying when you allow yourself to have the satisfaction of what the joy of what you're doing come from that working with groups of other people, not just yourself.
I think just, again, to jump on that, the artists and writers and designers who make it at BioWare in particular, but really anywhere in the industry, aren't the ones who never have any of their stuff blown up.
Yeah.
They're the ones who have their stuff blown up, and then they pick themselves off, they learn from the constructive criticism, and they make their next pass better, to the point where people who see the final product in the game see this as something that just must have sprung full form from their head, like Athena from Zeus.
It never happens.
Nope.
No, and it never happens. Everything that you see, every beautiful moment, every awesome landscape was something that probably got blown up once, if not twice.
And just finally, follow your dreams, right? If it's something that you're really passionate about, just do it. And keep trying, because it's absolutely worthwhile. You don't get stuck in a bank job, right? So just keep at it, and it's absolutely worth it.
Howdy.
Hi.
Hey.
This is probably a sensitive issue for a lot of people here, but in regards to the ending of Mass Effect 3, I was
I was waiting for this.
We figured it was coming.
Everyone do a shot.
Yeah.
I personally didn't have a problem with it, but as a team, how did it feel when the reaction was so strong? And yeah, I was just wondering how that felt around the office and whatnot. So,
Well, it always stings. I mean, you obviously, it would have been nice had everyone gone, oh, that was fantastic. But I think really the worst possible reaction to Mass Effect 3's ending would have been a bunch of people going, eh.
Yeah.
So knowing that you evoked passion from it, you have to look at that and know that that meant that you had people emotionally engaged. So you can see that side of it.
I was directly on the front lines of fan response. I was right there on social media. I was right there on the BSN. I was visiting other forums. I was reading the comments. And now, we know there were a few people that had never played the game that were jumping on the bandwagon of, hey, we're attacking something, let's all go have fun. Ah! But then they disappeared, because that's what happens. You have fun at somebody's expense, and then you go off and have fun at somebody else's expense. The people that stuck around and wanted serious change was because they cared. And like Patrick said, I called it the Oscar Wilde principle, which is, it is better to be talked about than to not be talked about. That if we had released the game and everybody gone, yeah, that's great, it would have been worse. We want to, and there were, everybody's like, everybody hated the endings. No, that's not true. There were a lot of people that either were okay with the endings, they didn't love them, they didn't hate them, and it was like, yeah, it was okay, good. Or there were a number of people that really enjoyed them. But there were a lot of very vocal people who didn't like them. And I equate the story to, if you go to a restaurant and you have a good meal, you probably don't really tell people about it. If somebody asks you, yeah, I'm going to go over there and eat. Have you been there? Oh, yeah, it's good. You should try the chicken. It's good. You don't really tell about it. But if you go to a restaurant and you have a really bad meal, you'll tell your friends. I went out last night, went into this place. It was awful. The service was terrible. It was horrible. Don't ever go there. So there was this great, big, loud fan reaction. And as Patrick said, it would have been, we would have loved it if everybody had loved what we did. We knew that wasn't going to happen. We were reaching the end of a trilogy of games where people had put in hundreds of hours of gameplay. Some people had more in-game romance time with their characters than they did in real life. We knew we were going to invoke a lot of strong emotion one way or the other. And yes, we wish it had been more positive, more people had enjoyed it. But again, it was because they cared. And to the credit of, Patrick was on the team at the time, Casey Hudson and the whole Mass Effect team, they listened. It would have been really easy for them to have hidden, to have, put their heads down and said, no, we're done. That's it. DLC coming next month.
Yeah.
They didn't. And it's hard. It's really hard when you've put stuff in as a dev team for years making this game to have people say how bad it is. But they didn't. They listened and they made the extended cut because it was the right thing to do, and release it, for free to the fans because, again, it was the right thing to do. And probably shouldn't say this, there was discussion, should it be charged? And Casey Hudson said, no, we can't do that. We have to make this better. We can do a better job finishing the game, providing clarity, answering some questions. And it was very important to the team to end it as best as possible. And I think with, the extended cut and then the DLCs ending with the Citadel. Who here played the Citadel DLC? Good amount of people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think now we're at a good enough spot. So it's really
I think to Chris's point earlier, it's something that you learn from as well. So going forward, we've learned those lessons, and we can take some of that into the next games that we do. So
Yeah, I mean, it allowed us to have some amazing conversations with some amazing people about what was so important and how you felt, and they weren't all easy conversations by a long shot, but they were really good to have, and I think we learned a lot, and it was really cool to get to be able to talk to people about that.
I think looking back on it, with some time having passed, it's fascinating just to see the context of, unlike Dragon Age, giving you Commander Shepard for 3 games, and from the start of the 3rd game, we knew that, and foreshadowed pretty strongly that this was the end of Shepard. We knew that we were going to have Shepard sacrifice him or herself, and trying to foreshadow that through the game, trying to honor that. And at the end, I think a lot of the fan reaction, this doesn't mean it's unjustified at all, is just grief. It's some of the most raw responses I've gotten have been people who are grieving because a character that was really important to them died, and died for a worthy cause, but died, and that sucks. And I think it's an important story to tell, and I'm glad we told it. And it's also been fascinating to see what we learned from that.
And it sucks for us too. Every time he killed someone, I'd be sitting there editing. I cried so much editing Morden.
Oh yeah, Morden.
Right?
I was in my room playing it, and I got to the spot, and I was playing it in character, and I made the hard choice. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody who hasn't got to it yet.
The game's been out for years.
People still get upset when you talk about Vader. Yeah. And I did push back my desk, and I was like, no! And my roommates were like, what the hell? I was like, I can't talk. I was so upset.
I had to play test. At one point, I just came out, because for people who got emotionally engaged in Mass Effect 3, imagine what it's like to make it and to have to go through and play test it. And you guys have the luxury of only playing Sucky Loser Shepard if you want to play Sucky Loser Shepard. We had to test it. So I'd be like, dude, how was your day? Well, first I shot Morden. Then I killed Ashley in the council confrontation. Then I went on the mission and saw Samara and let her kill herself. Then later I headed off and had Tally go off a cliff after Legion killed himself. And then Rex came, and I had to shoot Rex as well. And it's the most depressing place.
I'm starting to wonder why you guys like this
It's
stuff.
hilarious how depressing. You're just like, wow, these are some bad life choices. But valid if you chose them.
Next question.
Greetings.
Hello.
This is another career question to the producer. You mentioned that you've only been there for a year now today. Could you give us some insight into your history before BioWare?
Before BioWare, I was with Visceral Games, which is part of EA, for about 4 years. So that's the guys that make Dead Space and things like that. And then before that, so that was in Melbourne, actually. And before EA, I was with a number of local studios like Tantalus, Transmission. I've done pony games. I've done games where you like soap up a little animal and like scrub him. I've done flight combat games, you know, a whole range of different things for like the last sort of 13 years. But it was really, you know, BioWare was always my dream job. So it didn't matter what I had to do. You know, I was going to do it at some point. So. But that's basically my career. You know, I went in as a producer because I had a lot of experience in management, but it was really like I could have this boring job where I do the same thing day in, day out, until a mate of mine said, "Cam, what do you love?" And I'm like, "Games, man." He's like, "Well, just get a job in the industry, you idiot." I'm like, makes a bit of sense. I'm like, okay, and so yeah, like 3 months later, I wrapped up my business and moved into the games industry. And never looked back. I'd never do anything else.
And after all that, what's working at BioWare like, having that huge responsibility towards the publishers and the lead designers?
It's awesome. I love it. The culture at BioWare is like nothing I've seen in previous companies. So it's so creative, and it's so everyone is just so bloody good at their job that really it's not about unlike some other companies where you kind of have to push things through. At BioWare, it's more about unleash the awesomeness, right? And great stuff happens. So I just feel very privileged to have an opportunity to work with the guys. So yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
He's being too kind. I can't imagine that trying to get us to do anything isn't like trying to herd a bunch of rabid cats around.
But they're very cute cats. So
at each other's throats.
Yeah. No, you guys are great.
Hi, thank you again for coming. I want to give props up for DA2 because I'm one of those freaks who loved it. So, you know,
You're not a freak.
There are a freak. There are little crews of us around. We'll get lynched later, but we still loved it. I actually come from modding, so that's where I started with Neverwinter Nights and then went all the way through DA, Neverwinter Nights 2, and then through to Spiritual Successor DAO and all that sort of stuff. I mean, fan-generated content in the terms of the full mods, not talking just the modern content, because you can do, I mean, you can't stop the modding. The modding happens. And we'll do it anyway. But the full, like, I mean, I remember early Neverwinter Nights and Neverwinter Nights 2, creating and then playing through user-generated full mods. That because Dragon Age is about the world, the user-generated mods were part of that world. I didn't know whether you were looking, I mean, the more and more AAAs are going away from that sort of thing. Will you be bringing that back at all?
So we've talked about it. You know, we've looked into it. I mean, the Frostbite engine, it's very hard to do that kind of stuff. So you know, I can't really talk to plans on that side of things, but you know, you do see a lot of games doing it. I think it's a rising trend in the industry to do this, particularly in even some big games. You know, but mostly PC-oriented games, right? So I was playing Neverwinter online for a while, and that's got the Foundry there. You know, and that's a cool game. You know, like I never stopped playing it because whatever, and I spend too much money on it. But the Foundry is great, right? It's a really simple way to craft these experiences. You know, I think games going forward will improve on that, and they can learn from that. Maybe we'll do something, I don't know. It's a lot of effort to put a tool set together in a way that all fans can use it, not just your hardcore like game students or game developers.
Yep, Michael.
Yeah, hi. Traditionally, there's been a bit of a thing with Eastern and Western development, where a lot of Eastern developed games are a bit morally ambiguous and Western are a bit more cut and dry with good is good and bad is bad. You've already shown in the trailer where a specific decision of yours can result in death of a village, or at least it looks like that. With the new game, do you envisage yourself going more towards the morally ambiguous side of things where good actions can lead to bad endings, or is it going to be a bit more traditional epic where the good always do good and the bad always do bad with your choices?
Well, how to answer? I think looking at our games, there are times when there are choices that you can say are very morally clear. There are also times when there are choices that are fairly murky, whether you say it's by Western standards or just by game standards in general. So I think I would be surprised if we ever moved away from what you think of as the BioWare choices. There are always going to be points where we're going to make you pick A or B, and you will know that consequences are coming, and and neither choice is going to be perfect. But one of the things that I think we can add to that is the ability to have an impact on the environment, because that is a choice that can be morally neutral. It can be something where I can't get into every time I want. There is an example, and then Cameron just reaches and punches me. But things that you can do that impact the environment, that you can say, oh, I did this for good reasons, or I did this because I'm in charge, and I'm gonna lay down the law, and both interpretations are right. So I think it's something where ideally we're going to offer some opportunities for people who want to see something that's a little bit more morally ambiguous, but without changing our core story and core values that way.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, hi. With obviously the Star Wars, the Old Republic, and the precursors for that, do you feel that you've ended that storyline? Like, obviously with, this is going to be spoilers, with, I think it was Revan appearing in the Old Republic.
Are you asking whether there's going to be a KOTOR 3?
Yeah.
Is that where you're going with this?
I'm just asking if you feel that you finished with that type of storyline.
Well, it's important to remember that up at BioWare Edmonton, where we're from, we didn't work on Star Wars: The Old Republic. We know people that did.
The MMO.
Yeah, we didn't work on the MMO up in Edmonton. We did work, I was part of the QA team at the time on Knights of the Old Republic. And we had a great time working on it, and it did pave the way to it. We didn't work on Knights of the Old Republic 2, really just because LucasArts wanted it faster than we were prepared to be able to develop it in. But I think the story is still there. I mean, whether or not BioWare ever returns to Knights of the Old Republic or whatever, certainly not in the short term. We're very focused on Dragon Age Inquisition, on the next Mass Effect title. But theoretically, possible. We had such a good time working with LucasArts, but nothing going on right now.
With Dragon Age Inquisition, with the party, do you know if you're moving towards a larger party in the style of Dragon Age Origins or Mass Effect 2, or a smaller party like Mass Effect 3 or Dragon Age 2?
Just a question, do you mean party as in the group that's with you at any given time, or do you mean a party as in the selectable
pool
group of characters? Oh, okay. Well, then we can't answer.
Yeah. Could you have answered either one?
So much for clarifying.
And following on from that, are you going to be doing the Mass Effect style thing where some of your choices can get your followers killed?
Another thing we won't be able to talk about.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
afraid.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I need to give BioWare pins to everyone that I say I can't say anything to.
Yeah.
That's an apology.
Hi. Basically, I'll just clarify first. Love your writing. Been a big fan since my now husband introduced me to Knights of the Old Republic way back. We're going back 7 years now. And then you brought out Mass Effect, which really resonated since I've been a long time fantasy and sci-fi freak. These days, there's a lot of expanded content in regards to books and comics. Now, with the Mass Effect trilogy, obviously you've brought out a number of those. Now, before Mass Effect 3, you actually brought out some prequel novels, and some of those characters actually showed up during Mass Effect 3. Now, how much of that was actually pre-planned from the get-go?
Some.
Well, if I can say, because part of what the editors do is try and keep track of with every game and with every book, rather vast amount of IP that we generate. So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a book is written, there's a character, and the plan for that character is to be then used in a game. But it's sort of kept as a pool and a potential group of characters from which we can draw. So it will be more like, oh, there's a plot line and it you know, would be cool if we could tie it back to something that's happened before, and so we'll go back and draw from it, but it's kind of a mix. Occasionally there'll be one that goes forward, but I'm looking at you, who just wrote a
If
book.
I could plug my book.
I was going to say.
No, we do it both ways. There are some times where we put...
Said that.
I know.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you.
Really?
Oh my God.
Anyway, book,
So,
go
as
ahead.
Karen, to whom I was definitely listening, said, yes, we do it as the push and we do it as the pull. But yes, so for example, anyone who's read the summary for the upcoming Dragon Age Masked Empire knows that book is going to be about Empress Celine and Grand Duke Gaspard. And anyone who read Asunder knows that some stuff goes on betwixt the two. There's some unhappiness. People die. So we foreshadowed that in Asunder. And that's something that we looked at and said, well, okay, I think as something that we might possibly have an interest in looking at in Dragon Age Inquisition, this would be something that it would be great to get a more detailed version of, to look at in more depth and kind of give it the narrative time it really deserves. So I don't know, does that answer the question? It plugs my book, which is the important thing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next.
Hi guys, thanks for coming down.
Hi.
I have a really random question. Are you guys ever looking to continue the Jade Empire universe?
So kind of like Knights of the Old Republic. Currently, no. Potentially, maybe.
I will say this though, Mark Darrow, who's the EP on Dragon Age, was also the EP on Jade Empire. One of the first things I did when I got over there and started my job, I'm like, dude, Jade Empire 2, bring it. But yeah, for the moment, it's all about the Dragon Age Inquisition and the next
We
one.
really did love working on Jade Empire. I'm one of the few people, it's my favorite game from BioWare because it opened the door to allow us to make our own games. Up until that point, we were known for working on Dungeons and Dragons and working on LucasArts games. By doing Jade Empire, even flawed as it was, it let us make Mass Effect and it let us make Dragon Age. So hopefully someday we return.
And I'd say, just for my own self-interest, keep asking.
Yeah, keep asking.
That's really
good.
part
We
of it.
say, yeah.
People say it was, I mean, imagine, I don't know, who here played at any point Mass Effect multiplayer? Anybody? Awesome. Okay.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay.
Just looking at when we went from the game that shipped to expansion for the DLC, the additional PAX, what we do 4, 5, something like that. By the end of it, you could have a character who completely ignored cover and was entirely a melee-focused character, as Karen, the Krogan warlord, will attest. We've gotten so much better at doing that type of combat. Something that is action-oriented, melee-focused. I would love to see what a modern BioWare brings to that. I think that would be fantastic. As Chris said, it's not something that we're really focusing on at this time, but please keep asking.
Well, because we kept developing that because people enjoyed it and asked for more. So it's, if you guys want it, keep telling us that's what you want.
This is a question for the writers, really, I guess. Is writing the choices that the characters have to make one of the most challenging / exciting things that you do, and is it always going to be a cornerstone of your games because that's what separates them from, for example, books and movies, that you actually get to make the choice, whereas you don't in the other media?
Yes, this is the part where the BioWare writer shoots himself in the foot, because I'm not sure that choice is. If you had to ask me what the one thing that BioWare writers really either enjoyed or did best, I think we do choices and we enjoy doing choices, but for me it's always been about the characters. Mm-hmm. If you said we had to lose either choices in our games or you don't get to have followers, I would lose the choices first, because the followers for me are what keep me coming back to play and replay. Now, that's to answer the question you did originally ask. It's an interesting mindset to get into. It's very easy to just say, save the baby or save the warlock, and people are going to really agonize over that. No, they're not. That's not a choice. That's an opportunity for branching, and then the person who wants to feel evil can do that one, and that's about 12% of our player base. The really interesting choices, the difficult ones, are the ones that get people to debate and argue on internet forums, or the ones that get people to have discussions where actually both people are right, and the discussion reveals that they see the world in fundamentally different ways. I really enjoyed doing the Geth-Quarian war, and I loved the final choice. And my hope, what I said from the get-go, was I wanted the Quarians to be wrong when you look at it from a completely objective, logical viewpoint, and I want to see if I can make the objectively wrong people sympathetic enough that people will actually side with them. And several people did, and I'm proud of that, because it started a discussion. It made people argue, and I objectively wrong may not actively be objectively right. Me saying it. It's when you create situations that gray, that's fascinating, and I love that.
Hi. I was just wondering, people are talking a lot about tie-ins, if there's any plans for a pen and paper Mass Effect RPG.
Ooh.
I'd buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, we don't have any members of our business development team
Yeah,
here who may or may not be able to answer that question. New stuff comes along all
Just
the
send
time
an email
now,
now.
so yeah, I'll just chat
Chris,
with them
come
and
on,
say,
do it.
Chris,
Yeah.
what are we doing? Yeah,
That'd be cool.
Good idea.
We're actually at time, but I just spoke to Chris and he's going to give us a few more minutes. So we'll try and get, we probably won't be able to get to everyone. We've just got a question here. Thanks.
All right. So basically, with the Mass Effect 3 trilogy, with the Renegade and Paragon, and the blue and the red questions, for Dragon Age Inquisition, do you reckon you will have that obvious good or bad questions, or would it be like with the options of talking? Would it be red or blue or what?
Well, I think
you write them.
Well, yeah. So what I would say is, I think the good news and bad news was that when you looked at the persuades, is what we call them, the highlighted red or blue text, the joke became that, oh, complex moral situation. Wait, does it have blue or red text? Okay, well then that's how you win. And so what I think what we want to do, at least on Inquisition, we want to be aware of that. That doesn't mean we never use anything like that, because I think the idea of having some kind of prerequisite-based dialogue option that allows you to get a more optimal outcome is cool. And whether that is something that you get by putting points into a stat, or by having someone in your party, or by making choices earlier in the game that unlock that dialogue option, I think that rewards the player playing the game. And I like that. What we don't want to do is have every difficult moral decision rendered moot by the presence of brightly glowing text.
Just a quick one to go back to the choices again. A lot of the choices in games nowadays, they seem to be pretty much a case of you pick it, and once you've played it, you know what that choice is always going to turn out like. Has any thought been given to creating a situation where you go in and you've got the choice to save the warlock or save the baby, but something random goes on in the background and you've saved the baby, but then the dragon wipes out the city, or you save the warlock, but then the baby grows up real quick and kills him or something. Just to create a little bit of difference, so you can't just go online, grab the guide and go, okay, I want this outcome, so I can just pick these choices.
So a random element in the outcomes?
Yeah, just a lot more random, I guess, yeah.
Well, it's something we looked at. I think we've decided against it, generally speaking, because it ended up, when we tried implementing something like that, it ended up not feeling satisfying. Our players, at least in general, seem to like the if X, then Y. They like cause and effect, the choice and consequence. So as much as having the random element seems interesting, I think random elements would be something that we might add to the setup to make things more complicated. That might flavor your choice. But I think playing around with the consequences, every time we've tried it, it ends up feeling cheap.
Yeah, I think random elements in games are very tricky because you can get to the point where the player feels that they're not in control. So they can make a decision and then some random event occurs and they can feel punished for it through no fault of their own. So you need to be really careful with it. I think rippling decisions that go through on multiple layers that are still decided upon, they're not random, that would be really interesting to explore, but pure randomness would be very weird. I'd get mad if I made a decision and then something random happened. It's like,
or
oh
even
my God.
worse, I wouldn't get mad. I'd reload. And,
yeah, that's true.
And anything where you get the optimal thing by reloading and then doing just what you did before in hopes that the random number generator will work for you.
Yeah.
We're just the optimal way to play the game is to not have fun at that point.
Hi. In Mass Effect 3 with the multiplayer, whose idea was it to make multiplayer completion so important to galactic readiness, and why?
I have no idea who's...
Well, I can take a crack at it.
I know, sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not the gameplay team, so.
But I think we wanted, I believe it was Preston, the lead designer.
Yeah, our lead designer.
Because we didn't want it to be something that was tied to any individual plot element. We wanted it to be something that you could play during the course of the game or after the game. And we wanted there to be a reward for playing it. Having it be tied to the readiness score was, I think, what we came to as the best possible way to show a positive reaction, but not make it punitive if you never played it.
G'day guys. Just a question. You mentioned that you're all obviously gamers and that the writers at BioWare were big fans of the characters they write. And you look at something that's come out recently, like say The Last of Us, which is very character focused. It just sort of made me wonder, what are the games in the last few years that BioWare hasn't made that has made you guys go, oh crap, we need to do more? Or they've set a bar in, around the office, say, and really got to you guys?
Good question.
Yeah, it is good.
And actually, I think of it as being, that because we're all out there lining up and pre-ordering and everything too, and so I think of it as being that we don't really have water coolers, but what we're talking about in the kitchen.
For me, it was The Walking Dead.
I was just going to say Walking Dead is one that we talked about a lot. As
we all
played through
just
that. Yeah.
went nuts for The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I really was impressed with how BioShock Infinite, it's been the case with all the BioShock games, how well their level design and their level art tied into the narrative. That's something I've always loved. It feels like in some of the BioWare games we hit that at our best moments, but I think we can do better, and I'd love to see that.
Hey guys, just got a question about your how you find it with writing, with the books, and then trying to mix it with the all the ideas that you have of writing the main character. So in the books, you get to write pretty much what you want, an amazing character doing what he wants, being a badass. Then you write in the games, and you have to write him being a bit of a doofus and a bit of an idiot, and he's not always going to be what you want. How do you square that away with writing the bad versions, the crappy versions of Shepard? How do you deal with that?
Well, it's tough, yeah.
And
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have to be vigilant, and it's interesting because at least observing how the writers are coming up with plot lines, they'll usually come up with one or the other, and so the first way is the Paragon way, or they'll come up with the Renegade way, and then it's a matter of our writing. The writing pits, we call them, are just amazing places to overhear the conversations, because someone will come up with one of these ideas and then be working away and say, okay, I can't figure this out. What is going to be fun? And it's interesting that people do sort of split. Like Mr. Paragon here is always going to have the Paragon lines, but then they're Renegade, people who are solidly Renegade. And so listening to you guys talk about what's going to be satisfying for both types of players is fascinating.
I think it does go to an argument against a single writer game, at least from BioWare.
Yeah.
Because if you have one where here's the one where Shepard is awesome and here's the one where Shepard is a doofus, then you've done something wrong. Because there should be something where the Paragon player feels like that was the right way, and the Renegade player feels like that was the right way as well. I think, you know, I'm not saying we always hit it 100%, but you look at some of our best plots. Well, making Chris shoot Morden. You know, that was a Renegade option, and wow, we agonized over that stinking moment. That was a pain. And the interesting thing was we worked so hard on getting that one right that when because you know that was the one. Well, I don't want to do that, but that's the one I got to focus on. All right, it's got to be perfect. Every line has to be right. The player can never not realize they're going to shoot Morden. Like, no one wants, surprise, I shot my favorite follower. Yeah. Like, that one had to be crystal clear. That's why it's an interrupt. Like, I've raised the gun, I've said I will shoot you, and then the Renegade interrupt flashes. I wonder what will happen. Yeah. But the interesting thing was in our first play, the first time it got peer reviewed by the writers, the other writer, who is a giant light side hippie, played through it. Well, she is. Said, well, that was really great, you guys, but the light side, I don't know, it was okay. It didn't really make me sad or anything like that. It was just like, oh, okay, bye, Morden, see you later. So we realized we'd focus so much on the Renegade side because that was one we were worried about. We hadn't put in the due diligence to, you know, to knock the Paragon side out of the park. And so we had to go back and put in the moments and add the little touches here and there that actually made it, you know, as much of a reward for the Paragon players that most of us are, as the Renegade one was for the Renegade players.
I'm always bad. Always. Every BioWare game I've always been bad.
Well, and it's a great thing about working with such a huge group of people is because, you know, and we play those over and over, and there are many, many levels of review that the plots go through. And so...
and it makes it so much stronger.
It takes it's usually a process of kind of winnowing it down, you know, chipping it away and getting it to move in the direction that you want, and having people call you on, okay, that's not going to be satisfying for a player who's following that path. That's
shippable, but it's not awesome. And if this is supposed to be the big awesome, well, okay, you've played Mass 3, right? Did you? Yeah. Okay. Morden Seashell.
It's okay.
Whatever.
No, we all get busy. It's hard to finish all the games.
Morden, the Seashell line. Would have liked to run tests on the Seashells. Yes. That wasn't in the original. He does talk like that when he writes them, by the way. After very long days. Yeah, that line wasn't in the original. In the original Paragon side, we were just like, Ben and Honor Shepherd. And we realized it needed to be more, and that's how the Seashell line got in there and spawned some really, really awesome fan art.
Thanks. Hi, guys. How are you? Oh, sorry. Just back to Dragon Age for a second. In the Witch Hunt, there's an option at the very end of the Grey Warden to go off with Morrigan, and I was wondering if that was the last we see of the Grey Warden in Dragon Age.
Good question.
That is a really good
Cameron.
You know what I'm going to say, right?
Everybody do a shot.
Can you blink once for yes? Shrug your shoulders for no.
I can say it. I haven't said. We're not allowed to tell.
There you go.
Thanks anyway, guys. Appreciate it. Love that you came down. I love the series. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on it.
Oh, it's just good to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to actually ask a question, if that's okay. So I'm a Mass Effect fan. I've had many hours of Shepard just staring at me blankly while I've decided what I'm going to choose. And at the end, I fought hard, and she killed the Reapers, and she took a breath, and then that was it. Does she live? She lives in my heart and my mind, but does she live?
And that's the only thing that matters.
But that's the important part, right?
Yeah. No, seriously, who are we to tell you different? Would you be happy with us if I said, no, she's dead? You know, it's up to you. And seriously, I've had people ask me, you know, is indoctrination real or not? Does Shepard live or die at the end? And it's up to you, the fan, because it is the nature of your playthrough of how you crafted Shepard and your story. I have playthroughs, and I said this to some people in line, out of like 5 playthroughs, one of my male and one of my female Shepards were absolutely indoctrinated, but not the other 3. And I had some where Shepard was dead at the end of the game, and I had some where he or she was alive. And it is up to you where it should be, and it should never come from BioWare, in my opinion, that we say, he or she lived, he or she died, indoctrination was real, indoctrination was false, whatever it should be. It should be up to you and how you want to continue your story.
Great, awesome. Well, I think that you've given us an extra 10 minutes, so thank you very much for that. Everybody, big round of applause.
Just thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for waiting in line for all that time.
We really
and thank
appreciate
you
it.
for-
We
for
can't
your
do what we
support.
do without you guys.
Yeah,
so
we really can't.
we
So thank you
appreciate
for
it.
all your feedback and.
We are still here Saturday and Sunday as well. We don't have any more panel time, but we are going to be wandering around the convention. You can follow at Patrick Weeks on Twitter, at Bellincanto 114.
It's a
And
really
at
old
Cameron
Twitter
Lee.
address.
We'll be tweeting out when we can hook up to the internet around here, where we are. Thank you all for having us here. We hope to be back again next year. Thanks all very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.